In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to let go of blame and how liberating it is, and how much better conversations are when they're not rooted in blame or judgment. Here's an example. I come home and see dishes from breakfast in the sink, and I think to myself, oh my God, what a jerk. I feel angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and I don't say anything to my partner. Instead, my mind starts to spin. He's a jerk. He's lazy. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't love me. All sorts of crazy stories are spinning around in my head. And my partner notices that I'm kind of quiet. And he starts to probe, and I explode. And that's when I say all sorts of things, most of which aren't true because they're said in anger. There's another way. I come home, I see breakfast dishes in the sink, and I feel angry, and I pause. I ask myself, what's going on? How do I feel? And I realize that I'm feeling overwhelmed. I had a hard day at work, and I feel out of control to see dishes in the sink when I have to get dinner on. And then I ask myself, what do I need? And what I really need is I need some support and help. So I turn to my partner and I say, I'm overwhelmed just looking at dishes in the sink. Would you be willing to take 10 minutes so I can get started on dinner? And it's a whole different conversation, completely different outcome. Now let's look at the difference between these two versions. In the first one of the first mistakes is not communicating. When we're upset or angry or frustrated or sad, instead of communicating and talking to the other person to let them know how we're feeling, we swallow it or we hold it in. And inevitably gets trapped in our muscle tissue when we get tightness in our shoulders and jaw, or worse, it explodes and becomes much bigger than it really is. Second difference between those two versions. In the second version, I'm taking responsibility for how I feel. I'm the one that's frustrated. I'm the one that's feeling powerless after a difficult day at work. I'm the one that's looking for support. Taking responsibility for the things that we experience inside of us, our own emotions, rather than blaming others for what's going on inside of us. Third difference, blame and judgment. This usually comes across when we think in terms of you. You did this, you didn't do that, you're this, you're that. It was one of the biggest changes in my communication when I took you out of my vocabulary and I learned to speak in terms of I. I'm feeling like this. What's going on for you? One of the reasons to let go of blame and judgment is it's not very effective in engaging another person. Usually, when faced with judgment or blame, we build up a defense, and it's very unlikely that we're going to engage with the other person. I'd like to share a few more examples so that you can really see the difference between the two versions of blame and communicating without blame or judgment. You're a jerk for ghosting me. What happened? I was expecting your call. I was really looking forward to it. You're always late. You have to text me. I'm getting tired of this. Would you be willing to text me when you're going to be more than 15 minutes late? My mind just starts to go crazy with crazy kind of thoughts. Such a different way of communicating when we take ownership for how we feel, when we take you out of our vocabulary, and when we try to communicate with the other person. So lesson 1 is all about communicating in I statements, taking you out of our vocabulary, learning to communicate how we feel, and learning to describe what's happening rather than interpret what's happening in context of blaming another person. And the biggest thing that you can do to let go of blame is to pause. When you notice blame coming up inside of your head, she's this or he's that, whether you're judging your boss, your partner, your family, that's the time to pause and to ask yourself, what's going on inside of me? What am I feeling? Emotions is something that comes next in lesson 2, where we'll learn how to connect with how you're feeling, how to regulate your emotions, and how to harness the intelligence of your emotions so that you can communicate effectively with your partner or another person. Click on the link below for Authentically Expressing Emotions.